granniopteryx, she knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello, I have an apology to make to you and also some additional information which might be interesting for you. And the first is that in my last video, the last one I made about Lucy Letby, I said that the barrister who was dealing with her appeal was a fellow called Benjamin Myers. This, of course, was a complete mistake, and I don't know why I made that mistake, because I have already made a video about Mark MacDonald, the chap who is actually doing the appeal, or making the appeal, lodging the appeal. I'm sorry, I don't know how you present an appeal. Maybe that's it. Anyway, so Benjamin Myers was the original barrister, and he is his speciality was criminal and professional discipline. Now, we've got Mark MacDonald here. He's trying to assemble an appeal process to get Miss Letby's case reassessed. Now, I got some criticism when I quoted Mark MacDonald because one person who corrected me about the Myers thing said, and in any case, Mark MacDonald is a member of the Innocence Project, which is an American invention that, and that's somewhat been compromised by some quite high-profile defences of people that many suspect should not have been released. However, Mark MacDonald's Innocence Project is not associated with the American one at all. He started it inspired by the American Innocence Project, so far as I know, but he is running a separate outfit, and the way he runs it it strikes me as a rather good way of doing this. He gets law students to do most of the work. So they're not being paid, I suppose, or maybe expenses. I've no idea. But anyway, it's not a high expense legal thing. And these students are the ones who do the research and compile the dossiers and all that sort of donkey work that most people can't afford to get lawyers to do. And he gets these students to do it, gives them valuable experience in research and legal procedures, at the same time as doing some good for people who have been, from his point of view at any rate, who have been unjustifiably imprisoned. Now, I want to tell you something about Mark MacDonald. Here's an article on him in the Telegraph. And he says, Lucy's enemies are smearing me as a metropolitan elitist. I want to tell you about Mark MacDonald's background. After leaving school, Mr. MacDonald became a sheet metal worker. He later trained as an operating theatre assistant, working for the NHS for 14 years, which he said gave him first-hand experience of how things could go wrong in hospitals. So I'd say that this man knows a lot about the sort of problems that Lucy Letby faced. He also said, I have also worked with some dangerous doctors, ones who we, as support workers, knew we had to keep a close eye on, as there was a risk they could harm or even kill patients due to their negligence. So he knows about this. And one of the responses under my Letby video was that as an experienced nurse noticed that a doctor had said that a patient should be given 100 milligrams of some drug or other, and she realised it was micrograms, not milligrams. The doctor had simply made a mistake. And she corrected that. She either told the doctor or she changed the prescription herself. But the point is that doctors do make mistakes, and support workers are very important as a sort of second rank to that. The hospital where Lucy worked is at the bottom of Wes Streeting's new league tables. The neonatal unit itself at the time Lucy worked there has been described as not fit for purpose, dysfunctional, lacking resources, and a place where staff were overworked. It says here that Mr. MacDonald put himself through night school to gain the A-levels needed to study law, and after qualifying founded the London Innocence Project, a non-profit working to exonerate those wrongfully convicted. So, yeah, I'd say that altogether saying, Mark MacDonald works for the Innocent Project, and it's called the London Innocence Project, by the way, works for the Innocence Project, and the Innocence Project has a slightly dodgy reputation in America, and so he must be dodgy. Well, you're completely wrong there. And again, that's why I wanted to make this video, to remind people it was him and not Benjamin Myers, who is dealing with Letby's appeal. And if you want to hear something from Mark MacDonald, this was on Good Morning Britain, let's just hear what he has to say.
That yes, I represent a woman who I say there was a miscarriage of justice, but behind this are a lot of families that have suffered. And if she's innocent, they've suffered needlessly by going through a trial. Obviously, they've lost their child, but the whole process of a trial was wrong. And, you know, Professor Xu Li, the leader of the international panel, said, in our view, no crime was committed, which means, in their view, she's innocent. My job is to represent my client without fear or favour. But secondly, got to remember that the police held a press conference on the eve of the trial where many journalists were invited. They were all asked to sign NDAs. They then held another press conference at the end of the trial.
An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. I don't know what they were not going to disclose, but obviously the police were presenting the press with conclusions that they then told the press they couldn't actually, they couldn't tell the public that they had been told this by the police. And that's what it appears to me. I hope I'm not wrong there.
Whilst the defence, in fact, were doing their closing speech to the jury, the police have been engaging and putting stuff out there to the media all the way since her arrest. So we've had the state, the police and the prosecution giving material over to the police.
I think he means giving it over to the press. I think that was just his slip of the tongue. I'm not the only one who does that.
Trying to do is put an alternative narrative and say, oh, hold on here, have things gone seriously wrong?
All right, so that's Mark MacDonald, and that's what he says. Now, again, I keep on saying, I wasn't at the trial, I didn't hear all the evidence, I can't be sure. A lot of people saying, why aren't you sure? I don't want to watch your channel again because you're not coming out. I can't. I was not there, I did not hear the evidence, I'm not going to go through 10 months of reading. All I can say is that there are people like Mark MacDonald and there are people like Dr. Xu Li. Let's find a photograph of him. Dr. Xu Li, a proper neonatal expert who says, in our opinion, the medical evidence doesn't support murder in any of these babies. Now, he knows a lot more about this sort of stuff than I do, and I suspect a lot more about this stuff than you do as well, everybody. And that's why I say we just cannot be sure. And so, even by the most remote definitions of, are you sure this person is guilty? I believe that Lucy Letby cannot be convicted of murder. That's my opinion. And whether she did it or not is neither here nor there. I have the expert opinion of this neonatal fellow, a very highly respected doctor, and his team. It wasn't just him. And Mark MacDonald, who has seen some legal cases and knows a bit about doctors, as against the main witness, which is Dr. Dewey Evans, who is not even a neonatal expert and has changed his testimony a couple of times. All right, well, that's my return to the Letby story. Till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.